Your life is about to be greatly transformed in a really impactful way, Aries. Very positive, but it's going to be a lot that's happening in your life in the coming days. Maybe a potential move, changing of career. Something is about to be really picking up. And whatever I'm sensing here, it's manifesting very rapidly, Aries. So I must prepare you for this, my friend. All right. In this tarot reading, well, yes, I talk about what you're manifesting, Aries, but what makes my tarot readings different is that I like to provide a little bit of clarity about how you go from point A to point B. I like to provide this spiritual blueprint about what you should be working on, what you should be taking away from a little bit. All right. You know, it's all fine and dandy to hear the good things, but let's understand how you go from one point in your life to the good things. So if that sounds good for you, Aries, if you want some general direction going on in your life, then keep on watching. Let's get into this here. In your current situation, Aries, you have the Six of Cups, and then in your challenge position is the King of Swords. I actually like where you are currently, Aries, is because in the past recently, there's something that you have learned. Probably, you know, especially with the Six of Cups, maybe like a family member, some type of relationship I'm getting that you learn from, right? You had to move on from. It is in the past for a reason, darling, obviously. So you're no longer engaging with it. And with this King of Swords here, you're really, you're in this place of really trying to learn or gain whatever wisdom from that situation. And so I feel like you are very much so like something unfortunate happened in your past here, especially with the Knight of Pentacles here. It's like something just didn't progress as much as you would want it. Maybe it's like a relationship, like they just didn't keep up with your growth. Perhaps something just couldn't keep up with you on your journey here. And so while it sucks for you, Aries, right, I feel like it's a little bit of a tough pill for you to accept, but you do understand life does go on, darling, of course. It's taught you something, Aries, and whatever that situation taught you, it's really going to be something that allows for you to apply that to a new chapter of your life here. All right. And so this gives me a sense of maybe like a relationship heartbreak. Your next relationship is going to be a relationship that really gets you out of your city or something in like that, or like a job. Maybe there's like a job loss or disappointment, and then an opportunity comes forward to you where you're going into a completely different place. Like I really do feel like for you, Aries, when you come back around here like 6 months from now, you're going to be like, Velka, like you were right. You know, my life back then when I first received this tarot reading is vastly different than what it is now. Like, I really do feel like that for you, Aries, but it needed to, the only way for this to have happened is for some type of tower moment to have occurred here. All right. Is this sense of a tower moment, something that came falling apart. Right. And in the moment, I feel like it didn't even surprise you too much. I feel like you could already see like the red flags with it, and you're just like, okay. Like I feel like you already on some level were prepped for this journey. But I feel as if for you, Aries, it's really important to allow whatever has happened in the past with that tower moment to allow that to motivate you for your destination next. All right, Aries. Well, I'm not really too, I mean, this is your energy, this is your essence, right? I'm not too concerned, Aries, about you guys being too demoralized about pushing forward and all that there. But I do feel like there's this sense of using like a previous disappointing, or in some cases for some of you, Aries, like a traumatic situation, using that and then somehow seeing how you can take that experience that you had from that and then to allow it to help you create a new chapter of your life. So let's just say, for example, Aries, in your career, you always were working for somebody, but while you were working for those people before everything came crashing down, Aries, like you learned a lot of skills when it came to relationships. Like you learned a lot, right? Whether it's people skills, business skills, whatever the case is, you learned a lot. And it's essential for you, Aries, to understand that like this wasn't a mistake. Like you needed to have these lessons. It was very intentional for you because your spiritual team wants you to do something with this, to create something with this, right? When I escaped a cult, Aries, I didn't leave spirituality behind me. I allowed that to guide me forward even more during that really dark, traumatic period and point in my life, darling, right? I could have walked away from it at all, but I used the skills that I learned from back then rather than suppressing them memories and be like, oh, that was in the past, I don't even want to think about it anymore. I used the tools that I had to learn because of this traumatic situation and apply them to my now, and it's so much more effective for you. right, Aries? And so in your power position, you have the Nine of Pentacles. So no matter where you are in the world, no matter who it is you are talking to, Aries, like, you are always going to be good. You are always going to be taken care of. Even if you don't connect to your spiritual team on a pretty regular basis here, then I do get the sensation, Aries, it's like you have a good relationship with certain people on your spiritual team, but it's like that old friend, Aries, that old friend that you've known the longest, but you guys end up communicating the least amount. But anytime you do connect, it's like, like time has never went by, right? In your power position with this Nine of Pentacles is that you are always going to be taken care of. For my people, Aries, that are coming out of a job and then having, like, seeing this as a sign, be like, oh, maybe I should, start creating a business of my own here. The Nine of Pentacles is the best card, Aries, for personal self-employment and having that be successful here. And something I want to be pointing out, if you could tab back into this video here, if you have me tabbed out, Aries, is that this person is always accompanied by usually some type of aviary, like a bird. But I see this as like your spirit guide here, and they're usually guiding you to pick out which pentacle and doing that to wear. And so in the coming days for you, Aries, when this big change, when this big transition happens in your life, because you already are starting to see the signs of things, be like, okay, I need to be prepared for that tower moment that has happened, that's about to be happening here. Your spiritual team is going to be leaving some breadcrumbs for you. And so I really do get like the sense of like an opportunity for you to have like a transition from like a living situation. Like, there is like this opportunity where it's like, as the Titanic is sinking, darling, there's gonna be like a lifeline sent towards you, and it may not be something that you initially would have considered, especially because of the Seven of Wands here. I feel like there's certain desires that you've wanted to do, certain things you wanted to chase after, but I feel like people have like convinced you in your brain that that was like a silly thing, that you couldn't be able to possibly do that, right? So let's say, for example, you always wanted to live in New York City, but everyone around you and your friend circle be like, oh, New York City is too expensive, you wouldn't be able to take care of yourself, da 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 da. Joke's on you, bitch, right? You have that Nine of Pentacles, like, you're able to take care of yourself, you're good, Aries, right? And so I feel where the breadcrumbs, your spiritual team, like that your spiritual team is leaving you, Aries, it's going to be something that's guiding you towards something that you might be afraid of judgment, or you might be afraid of like leaning into this because of what you were told in the past of like what you how living the life that they think you should be, right? And so, Aries, I do get with all these different types of cards here, I do get the sense of independence. So I really want to be leaning into my Aries that are having considerations of moving out on their own, getting their own place. I feel like that's about to be really happening for you, especially if you haven't done that before. Maybe you're about to be single for the first time in a long time here. But I get from many of you guys, Aries, you're on the path towards independence. And if you already are self-employed or having your own personal hustle, I see things expanding from there, Aries. So it's like, I feel like you're able to generate more revenue from certain facets if you were to explore it a little bit. So for example, if I had any, I don't have any Aries in my chart, but if I had Aries in my chart, I'd be like, okay, Velka, I would see this reading and be like, okay, maybe I can find a way to like do something else with tarot as well, that's like a side income, or further developing like a web, something like that. So food for thought there, Aries. And then the outcome position, we have the Eight of Swords. This is the card of like self-limiting thoughts and beliefs, Aries. And so it's almost as if you told yourself, you've almost convinced this narrative of yourself where you says like, oh, Velka, I could never be like an influencer because I'm just too shy, I'm too insecure. It's like, oh, Velka, I couldn't do, you have like, it's like, I can't do the X, Y, and Z, whatever the case is, it's like, I can't do blank. And I want to ask you why you feel like you can't do that, Aries. Again, is it because of the people in your past that you just quite literally are walking away from and learning what those past situations taught you? All right, how that affected your personality. Maybe you were not an introvert, Aries, but you always were you were always an introvert around certain types of people that were not of your match. But now that you're separating yourself from it, you're noticing that you're actually a little bit of a social butterfly. So stuff like that, Aries. Like, I feel like you have very self-limiting thoughts, and I feel like that was pushed on you because of the people that you were around. I feel like you didn't really have a nice supportive system of some type. I feel like whatever the case is, like what you have been investing your energy into up until this point really has not been fostering a place where you feel like you could grow. And so that's why You are feeling inspired by this full energy to be walking your own path, following in your own destiny here, Aries. Whatever the case is, I see it being extremely successful, but it's only going to be successful for the Aries that choose to challenge the identities that other people project onto them. For the Aries that choose to not care about the outside opinions of other people. If I cared about what other people thought, I wouldn't be doing tarot readings, Aries, all right? But the thing about it is, the reason why I choose to do these tarot readings, even though there might be some random judgmental people, is that user 59608, whatever, and the haters of the past, you know, their opinions of me do not dictate how I want to live my life. You know, their opinions of me are not more valuable than what it is that I want to accomplish in this lifetime, right? My dreams are more important than random strangers' opinions, or even people that I know, people from the past of the family, right? And I feel like that's going to be your story too here as well, Aries. As soon as you get out of your head, darling, right? You're meant for a lot of great things. You just have led a life up until this point where people like to tell you that you were not. But trust me, darling, I have a rubber duck earring. If you can't trust someone like me, who can you trust, right? But Aries, that's the weekly tarot reading that I have for you today. Hopefully something in here was helpful. If you want further clarity in your life, my website's linked down below, SimplyVelca.com, for a personal one-on-one reading with me. And then you'll see down there a link to a spiritual newsletter from Minopond Tarot. You might be familiar with him. It's a spiritual newsletter, winningpond.com. Check it out and you might be interested in that. But until next time, Aries, I love you so much. Bye, darling.